welcome to the CX Files podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hillary. Last week I moderated a discussion about technology recruiting trends across Europe for the recruitment specialist SThree. One of the panelists was Luuk Houtepen, who heads the DACH region for SThree. Luuk's based in Munich in Germany. Luuk also chairs the APSCo Germany chapter. APSCo is the Association of Professional Staffing Companies. During the discussion last week, we talked several times about how the increasing complexity of contact centres is driving a lot of technology recruitment. So I called Luuk this week to ask about some of these trends and what we're seeing in contact centres at present. Okay, we spoke together recently on an SThree event that was focused on the pulse of the European technology industry. And I was struck by how many times contact centres were discussed when we were talking about technology recruitment. Are the contact centres in Europe becoming more high-tech and reliant on IT than their reputation suggests?
Well, I think that's the case, Mark. A year ago, if I would have something that I wanted to discuss with a supplier or a car brand or with Amazon, I had to call, be in a waiting line for half an hour, and then hopefully have a human to pick up my issue that I then had to completely explain. And nowadays, chatbots are getting more and more common, even in Europe. So let me give you an example of something that I had last week. I ordered something on Amazon and it didn't arrive. And I went into my app. I chatted with a chatbot, telling the chatbot what the case was. And only at the last stage, the kind of decision stage, a human got in and looked at the situation and said, okay, yeah, that is eligible for a refund. So that wouldn't have been possible like a year ago. And therefore, it's getting more adopted and people are getting used to it. And it's giving better customer service, I would say, because it's easier to get in touch whenever, wherever. And yeah, that's a change, definitely.
Okay, yeah. And certainly in this podcast, I mean, we've covered subjects such as big data, machine learning, AI, virtual reality, and these are all technology fields, quite often emerging technologies. Do you think that CX, customer experience, and contact centers are actually kind of at the forefront of finding practical ways for business to use these new technologies?
I would definitely say so. The perception of a brand and the perception of a organization is seen through the first line of contact, and is felt through the first line of contact. And the improvements and the technology improvements from good brands, good organizations, make sure that that feeling is positive. Yeah, and we speak a lot about the NPS score, the Net Promoter Score. You feel valued more if the technology is used well by the brand, and you see a change there as well. And hopefully this will go further. Artificial intelligence helps, with getting a lot of stuff done that manual labor in the past took a lot of time. And you see that the larger and better organizations are better in developing great customer service, CX as we call it, through the use of technology in combination with humans, in combination with manual labor, so to say.
Okay. I mean, when we had our talk before focused on IT recruitment, it made contact centres sound like a good and attractive career prospect, and we don't often hear that when we're talking about contact centres. I mean, it's clear that there's access to a lot of new technology, a lot of budget. People are doing interesting things. I mean, is this coming through in the recruitment trends that you're seeing for this sector?
Well, that's a bit of a long way, because indeed contact centers never had a really good name, a reputation. Yeah, it was seen as very simple, dull work, with a couple of scripts and a telephone. But the world has changed with the technology that a contact center agent or a recruitment agent can use and has to use nowadays. It's a lot more interesting as a job, as a career, because you have so many ways to communicate with your customers, ways to communicate in the recruitment case with your candidates. And it's just, I think personally, a more rounded job nowadays than it was in the past, but it also demands different skills. So the typical contact center, as we know from the past, a couple of call scripts and 99 times no, that is not the case anymore. Recruiting is getting a more intelligent job where you're using all types of communication tools, including apps, including social media, to get in touch with your candidates, with your clients, and therefore it's a more rounded job, as I said before. Yeah.
So are there any particular types of IT skills that are more in demand for your contact center clients?
Well, I think definitely multitasking. It's not one-dimensional anymore. So especially in most contact centers, and especially in recruiting, you had a telephone and that was it. And nowadays you need to kind of treat all your communication channels like equal. Yeah, they have similar values. And of course, there's still the telephone if somebody calls in, if you're trying to reach a client, but there's definitely also other channels. So you need a lot more affinity with these type of new media. And we are seeing that the ones that are best also with social media are best with marketing themselves and their brand, so to say, that they get through quicker and that they are more efficient and more effective in their work. So IT skills is a lot more important, and especially the multitasking. So being able to do multiple things, multiple channels, and delivering good content into multiple channels all the time.
And I mean, has anything changed since the pandemic began, sort of three months ago or so? I mean, I know that Teleperformance is one good example. They had about 10,000 employees working at home, and now they're up to about 200,000 working at home. So there must have been a demand for security and networking skills or something like that.
Yeah. So I was asked here by the telecoms industry 2 months ago to speak about, indeed, it was a European call tracking convention or something like that, and to speak about what we're seeing in recruiting. But I got a lot of insights in what's happening in the pure play call centers as well. And indeed, it's moved from altogether hundreds of people in an office room into everyone at their own home using either bring your own device or indeed hardware delivered by the employer. And it changed. And the biggest change that I've seen is the topic of trust. In this industry, there was never a lot of trust, because the old world said, yeah, you need to get people into an office and then tell them what to do, because otherwise they won't do it. And during the pandemic, they had to change this and say, okay, we have to trust you, you're doing your work. Yeah, how can I facilitate you? How can I support you to do your work in the best possible way you can? So that was a massive change, and I think a very positive change, because of course there is persons that don't take their work seriously. That will always happen. You see that everywhere, and even the highest skilled jobs, there is these type of people. But in general, staff wants to do well and wants to perform, and they don't need a person above with either a carrot or a stick. They just want to be enabled to do their work right. And that's the biggest change I've seen. Companies start enabling their employees to work from home as good as they could. And people are motivated.
Yeah, that trust angle is really important. I think that's really changed the employer-employee relationship. I mean, just finally then, I mean, moving on into next year, do you see any trends in technology recruitment? I mean, are there any changes because of what's happened with the pandemic? I mean, are you seeing any hiring changes or skill demands that are different?
It's a bit difficult to answer, Mark, because I've signed multiple NDAs within our organization. We are definitely working and quite far with some really interesting tech that helps recruiting and helps us as an organization to recruit faster and better selection. But in general, I can answer that the pre-selection tools of potential candidates fitting to potential jobs will be more digital. The ATS and CRM systems will be more connected and more digital. Software will be helping in telling you as a recruitment consultant, did you think of providing this candidate to this client, because there might be a match. Yeah, and people are not don't have the ability to see all this information and have all of this. And software will help them. It will enable the recruitment consultant to be more successful, to do more things, to do more send-outs of good candidates, connecting more clients to more candidates because of software. But it's a bit of a race to get the best possible software doing this, and I think we're on a very good track. And we're taking it very seriously with our whole C-level and boards in the different countries to get the best possible solution for us. But it's a game changer, and that's taking place now. So Corona has kind of made changes go faster, right? It was already something we're working on, but all of a sudden we had to go for it. Same for our laptop rollout. It was planned for 1.5 years. And now in 5 weeks' time, in the whole DACH area, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, we had everyone on the laptop working from home. And we're back to normal over here. We're doing similar levels of interviews, similar levels of turnover.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. Please take a moment to review the podcast because this helps other listeners to find it. And if you have any suggestions, then get in touch with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm @Mark Hillary with 2 L's, or just search Google for Mark Hillary.